In this lesson, we're going to be covering anatomical position. So this video lesson is particularly important because it's one of the concepts that underpins majority of the way I explain the 10 primary movements. It may be a little bit tricky to grasp at first for some people. Everyone's going to be different, but be patient with it and keep practicing if it doesn't make sense, because eventually when it does click, it will make everything in the gym make more sense. And that's a really big benefit. So let's get into it. We will first take a look at the term anatomical position. Here is how we define it. If we take a look at the human body standing, with the palms facing forward, the body is erect, and the eyes are facing forward. We use this position as a reference point to describe how the limbs are moving relative to the trunk. The way we use this information to explain exercise concepts in this course is key. The speed in which you understand this will vary between everyone, but I will try to explain this as simply as I can. Let's take a look at the two axes we're going to be working with, horizontal and vertical. I just like to think about the horizon when the sun is setting being across left to right. The vertical is the other one. I often think about a skateboard vert or a ramp, and that's straight up and down. In context to this course, when it comes to the environment, vertical is always straight up and down and horizontal is always left to right. So when we look at movements in an upright position, it's pretty easy to understand. If you were to push something straight up, we would call this a vertical push. If we were to pull ourselves straight up, essentially the same as pulling our arms down, you are working vertically, so that would be a vertical pull. When you push your arms directly out in front of you, for example, a chest press machine, or if you are pulling your arms directly inward, typically this is called a row, and here is an example of someone rowing a boat. You are working horizontally with the push and the pull in this sense, and that would be working a horizontal push and a horizontal pull. So this should make sense so far. This is because the trunk is in an upright position so far as well. There are many other describing terms to learn if desired, but for simplicity, we will be leaving it at this for now. So let's put some pieces of the puzzle together. And this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. If I'm lying face down, or the correct term, if I'm prone, I want to use the anatomical position as a reference point, not the environment. So if I was to perform a push-up, am I pushing vertically or am I pushing horizontally? Yes, you now have permission to be confused. The answer is, I am pushing horizontally. If you are wondering how that works, then let me explain. Yes, you are going up and down vertically in the environment, but when we exercise, we are interested in the body and how the limbs are moving in relation to the body. So I know it's a little bit selfish for us not considering the environment, and it makes this a little bit more confusing, but it actually makes a lot of sense once you get the hang of it, so bear with me. So if you're good at spinning shapes around in your mind, then you'll understand this one in no time, because that's all we're doing. Another example of a horizontal push is a seated chest press machine. This time you are also pushing horizontally in relation to the environment, and that's just convenience at this point. Again, we are looking at the relationship between how our limbs are moving to our body, then linking it back to anatomical position. So hopefully this is starting to sink in, but if it hasn't, I'm hopeful that it will start to click the more you're exposed to these concepts as the lessons go on. One more thing before we move on to the next lesson. These terminologies apply for the movements with the upper body. We will cover concepts for the lower body as we work through the movements themselves. When you are ready, you can move on to the next lesson.